It is really great pleasure for me to be in this room and to be guest of the University of Zagreb. Believe me, I have conducted quite a number of official meetings during my life, and it is always much more challenging to speak in the rooms like this and in the buildings like this than in the offices of presidents and prime ministers and presidents of the parliaments. Because here in the university we follow the main basic principle of academia, to be honest and to examine all the things without any flavors of politics, diplomacy, and other things which are necessary in those fields. So it is great pleasure for me to be here. And as it was rightly mentioned, I did spend some time during my professional career as a member of the faculty of the university. And although I represent the political coalition Georgian Dream, which is political coalition, my real dream is to go to the university as soon as possible and to be in the environment where students and professors can examine the most pressing, most important issues of our life, of nature, of social sciences, of humanity, and so on. Therefore, I'll try today to address one very, very important issue, the constitutional foundations of democratic states and the constitutional process of new democracies, which are fundamental for my country, Georgia, and as I'm finding it more and more, it is a fundamental issue for many other countries, including this wonderful country, Croatia, which has very rich history, including constitutional history. However, in order to feel as real, full-scale member of democratic world, we all need to strengthen our constitutional foundations, and we all need to rethink a lot of things which some years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago seemed so obvious. However, real life shows that we need to be ready for innovations, because it is sometimes wrongly assumed that innovation is a job of some technologies and scientists and engineers and so on. That's not right. Innovation is necessary in social life as well, and in social architecture of the nation. And the Constitution is the number one thing which should be viewed always with the eyes of innovative, creative understanding of the life and the concept of the Constitution. So I'll try to do some analysis what Georgia went through in terms of constitutional development. But first of all, let me remind you that Georgia is former Soviet Union country. It is located in Caucasus between Black Sea and Caspian Sea. It is bordering with several countries, namely Russia, our northern neighbor. Azerbaijan is bordering us from the east, Armenia and Turkey from the south, and Black Sea from the west. So that's where we are located. And that's where we were located for many, many centuries. We are still trying to find out where we are coming from, as well as all the other nations. This is our beloved exercise to understand who we are. But our historians and historians of other countries are still failing to understand where we are from, because Georgians do not have any close relatives in the world, and we have a very unique language which nobody other than about 5 million Georgians understand. We have our own transcript which nobody other than these 5 million Georgians can read. We do not have a direct connection to our neighbors in terms of histories when the nations were divided or resettled and so on. Well, therefore, we are proud to say that we are one of the old nations, and probably it's not our achievement, it's achievement of Caucasian high mountains, where we were hiding all the time when another invader would come to our region. That's why we survived. However, in the modern world, these high mountains are no more effective shelter, and I'll come to that issue because it's mountainous two regions who are occupied by Russia since early 90s, and in these days Russia is completing the process of annexation of these two regions by conducting international treaties about integration of these regions with Russia. So at the moment our statehood, the state we have now, it was re-established after the breakup of the Soviet Union, and in 1991 Georgian parliament announced independence from Soviet Union, and then we started our constitutional process, which of course I will address later in more details. But in our case, we kind of restored the independent statehood, which was taken away by Red Army of Soviet Russia in 1921. And the independence statehood, which we lost in 1921, was established in 1918, just 3 years before Soviet army occupied Georgia once again. However, in 1918, we restored our independent statehood, which we lost in 1801, in turn of centuries, 18th and 19th century. That was the time when Russian imperator interpreted very interestingly our constitutional agreement with Russia, which Georgian kings concluded in 1783. And that was the treaty about friendship, about Russia's obligation to protect Georgian in the kingdom, and about Georgia's obligation to fight together with Russia against Persian and Turkish states. However, after 20 years, Russian imperator interpreted this treaty as Georgia's willingness to become part of Russia. Therefore, they abolished kingdom and incorporate Georgia inside the Russian Empire. So that's when we lost our our monarchy. And until 1801, Georgia had non-interrupted monarchy, statehood. We started in 4th century, when Georgia became a Christian nation in the region, and we adopted Christianity in early 4th century. So why I'm going back in the history? I'm going back because for every nation, for every country, for every state, when we are thinking about our current constitution and constitutional foundations of our statehood, we are trying to build it on some foundation, on some principles, on some understanding of our own national identity and our place in the world. Therefore, for Georgians to be independent always was as natural as to be alive. And during Soviet rule, which lasted for about 70 years, and more than 100 years before Soviet rule, when Georgia was part of Russian Empire, that was the dream of all Georgian thinkers. And if one goes through the literature of 19th, 20th century of Georgians, that's what the best representatives of our nation were dreaming about, to have independent state, because that's where we are coming from. That's where we tried to be developed, to be part of the world. Another issue which is very important for Georgia, and I'm talking about Georgia as kind of case study, because what I'm saying, of course, it applies to the states who are trying to build new democratic state and who are coming from those early stages of human development. So for Georgia and for its statehood, another essential part of self-identity, other than being independent nation, was that this independent nation belongs to European Christian civilization. This is another integral part of the self-identity of the nation, which is trying to establish its modern democratic state. Yes, it is clear that our predecessors lived on territory where we live now before Christianity as well. However, whatever we know about ourselves, whatever is written, whatever is kept, whatever we can access, we can see, is the examples of Christian civilization. The ancient churches, which date in 5th, 6th century, first Georgian manuscript, which dates the same time, as I said, non-interrupted kingdom since then, and so on. And what was this civilization then? It was part of Roman Empire, and later on part of Byzantine Empire, and later on being invaded by all big empires or big invaders like Arabs, Mongols, and so on, Turks, Persians, and so on and so on. But Georgia tried to keep the eye on Europe, to be part of the Christian civilization, because at the moment whatever is east and south from Georgia is Muslim world. Whatever is in north is, well, Christian Russia. However, Northern Caucasus is populated by Muslim nations, and that's where we live. However, we managed to develop very unique tradition to live with different cultures, with different people, exercising different religion, having different lifestyle, and being on frontier of the civilizations gave us these unique chances and opportunities to remain ourselves, but to interact with the different people without difficulties. So this is very important foundation for constitution, and every single nation which is trying to establish its modern democratic statehood need to realize where it is located, who are the neighbors, who are the countries who have influence in the region. Therefore, what kind of constitutional system we need to build, what kind of international, what kind of concepts in international law we need to adopt. Because it is constitutional foundation and expressed in many constitutions, including Croatian constitution, Georgian constitution, other constitutions. What is the relationship between the national law and international law? What is the competence of different state bodies in order to conclude international treaties, enter international organizations, have some relations, transfer the part of the sovereignty to some globalized organizations, and so on. It comes from our history and from our current understanding of the environment where we live. So in order to establish proper mechanisms in this international context, we need to understand our own international development, where we are coming from. The fourth very important foundation for the democratic constitutional processes is the well-identified balance between the reality, what we have now, and the desired picture where we want to arrive. We had just brief talk before we came here with the rector, and we touched this issue on other things, how educational system works in Georgia and in Croatia and so on. And I admitted that we Georgians made some mistakes, because in early 90s there was euphoria of freedom. Therefore, in every single small town, new universities were opened. And we had probably more than 100 law schools in a country where we have, I don't know, where we need probably 100 lawyers per year. And we had 100 law schools. Because it was kind of understanding that, well, let's do it. We need educated people. We need competition, private business competition in educational field is positive because it increases the quality and so on. But we found ourselves in deep problems. Obviously, the nation did not have resources to train good lawyers in 100 schools, and we never needed so many lawyers. And now, I don't know, half of the population of the country does have one diploma of lawyer, just in case. And this damaged the current situation, because we in the universities understand very well how damaging it is when a young man or woman has this diploma and no knowledge. It is damaging the psychology of a young person who tries to get appropriate job, because I have this very nice diploma. Therefore, how I can work on some other lower positions and so on, and so on and so on. This is one example of problems in understanding of the reality and having rational connection from the current situation to the future objectives. Why I'm talking about this? Because the Constitution, this is nothing but the product of fears and concerns and some historic memory of bad things which we want to prevent by constitutional concepts on one hand, and vision of the future, what we want to see in our countries. So Constitution is not about today. Constitution is coming from the past experience and is looking for future model of the lifestyle. From the past experience, we know that if the authority is concentrated in the hands of one man, no matter who that one man is, the country will end in big problems. And that's what history teaches us, Georgian history, Croatian history, Russian history, world history. Therefore, we are trying to design some mechanisms how to prevent concentration of power in hands of one man. However, during 20th century, we realized that, well, it's not only one man who is dangerous. It could be dangerous if power is concentrated in one group of people. Therefore, we started thinking about different groups of people who would share the power, and that's the multi-party system. Why multi-party system is promoted by constitutional concepts. And, well, those of you who are familiar with this concept, we know it's about electoral system, it's about composition of the parliament, it's about relationship between government and parliament, it's about the special privileges given to the opposition, it's about specially designed models in constitution and in laws which prevents one group of people who may appear very popular at a given circumstances to prevent them to grab the whole power. And that's all about the separation of powers and then having the different branches, group of people who would control each other. We are even attempting to invent and establish very, very, very special group of people, judges, judicial system, which we want to be completely independent. Then we want them not to see anything we are analyzing in politics. We want them to be as free as possible from any influence, not to be too much right-wing thinkers, not to be too much liberals, too much socialists, too much patriots, too much globalists, and so on and so on. We are almost trying to kind of get artificial human in face of a judge who has some special tools to reach something which we are not able to reach. Some I don't know. It's sometimes I'm thinking the most common institution to the independent justice is the church. If you see, they have the same clothing, similar one, and they both claim that they have very special connection to the truth. to something which we do not have it, and they have even similar settings in the appropriate buildings. You see, judge goes somewhere else, locks himself, and tries to get the truth, and so on. So why we are doing that? Because we understand, we realize that this system of democracy is not perfect, and political debate in the parliament is not enough to establish who is right and who is wrong. And the lawmakers are not enough in order to make right laws, because then we assume, of course, we create police, we create prosecutor's office, we create other law enforcement agencies. Why? Because we know that at least 1/10 of every single constituency, including this one, we are vulnerable. We may commit some unlawful action. We may do something not in the line of the law. That's why we are inventing laws. That's why we are writing that horrible book called Criminal Code, which has the collection of all horrible things which we have, which we can see in the life, murder and all bad things. Why? Because we know that we are not perfect. It is not written for others. It is written for me as well, because yes, I may make mistake. Therefore, when we are writing constitutions, when we are prohibiting something, the democratic countries, democratic nations, when they're writing constitutions, and those who are writing, those who are voting, no matter on the referendum or in the parliament, by the way, I believe it's not the greatest idea to have referendum as the tool of amending the constitution, which I believe you have. But I promised you to be honest here. I would not say this to your president or speaker of the parliament, of course. It's not my job what kind of system you have for the constitutional amendments. But here I can say referendum for constitutional process, it could be helpful with if it is very well defined, what kind of matters you can put on the referendum. For example, if you include taxation issue as a matter of referendum, well, okay. Of course, most popular thing would be no taxes. Why I should pay for those who are, or minority rights, human rights in general. So there are some limitations where direct democracy can produce the collective mind is not always the most rational mind, and the collective mind can hurt collective or society more than individuals who are well balanced through these checks and balances and so on and so on. But anyway, when going back to the constitution, which is on one hand the result of our concerns which comes from the past, it is fascinating if one reads constitutions of different countries and finds out what was the biggest trauma which this nation went through. Because for some people this is monarchy, for example. And when constitutions were written, that was the time when nations were moving from monarchy to republics, and the biggest evil was monarchy. Therefore, you find these kind of statements in the constitution which kind of prohibits or makes it impossible to change the political system of the country, which says that you can amend every single article of the constitution, but you cannot touch the article which says that this is a republic. Why? Because this was the biggest concern. Then you go in another constitution and you see this sentence that it is prohibited to merge or to put under one single hierarchical system agencies of police, intelligence, and defense, for example. Well, this indicates that this nation went through some problem when these agencies being merged abused the power or did something wrong for the people. Therefore, some constitutions prohibit this kind of merger and bring it to the point of constitutional provisions. You go in other country and you see that it prohibits to transfer sovereignty to any international organization or to the regional organizations because it was coming from there. So this is one part which we need to realize in this democratic process, because it is right that nations are stressing on those specific issues, because in order to increase the trust to the future, we need to decrease the concerns that the problems we had in the past could be repeated. Therefore, Constitution, as main political and legal document, is preventing such things to happen. However, the other part where we sometimes fail is the future, because, well, we, at least Georgians, and to some degree Croatians, of course I'm not comparing these two countries, you are a member of the European Union, you are a member of NATO, you do not have any immediate threat for your security, and so on. We are just opposite. We are living under constant threat of security of the country, because, as I said, two regions are occupied by Russia, and Russia, being Russia, tries to have complete control over the country and over the region. When we are asking, please leave us alone, can we make our own choice to be a member of NATO or whatever? They say, no, we love you very much. We cannot, we take care of you. Yeah, we need to take care of you. And this is constant threat. Therefore, it's not easy to do any business in Georgia, because every day you are under this kind of pressure that who loves may come closer. But there are some common things between our countries. And that common thing is that we have to work, 10 times harder and 10 times faster in order to catch the train where you have your own wagon or whatever, yes. You are already there, and we have the association agreement with the European Union. That means that we are just running to catch that train. The train says that, okay, if you come closer, we can give our hand and accept you. So you need to work faster than that train in order to maintain this connection with the train. We need to work even faster in order to come close to the train and then make connection. And what that means? That means that we have to somehow do almost magic things. Well, if for growing a tree it is necessary, according to the natural sciences, 3 years in order to give apple, well, we need to do it somehow in 6 months. This is subject of different discussion, how we need to manage to do that. But we need to realize that such state of affairs imposes a huge danger and risks, because this environment forces us to skip some processes, to jump from the first grade to 7th grade in high school, symbolically. And that affects the constitutions and democratic process a lot, because we want that special group of people, independent judiciary, now, today. The other country said, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years in building this system. We want multi-party system now, today. But we in Georgia, of course we have multi-party system. Of course we had many parties since early 90s. But in a way we had many communist parties instead of one communist party. Not because they declared that they are communist parties, but they were behaving as communist parties. Because if party or leader says that, well, I am anti-communist, I am for freedom, I am for liberalism, I am for right for capitalism, whatever, and nobody else in the society knows anything how to rule the country. It's me, it's us, and others are enemies, others are taking country to like Bolshevik, Menshevik. And instead of competition, we are looking for enemies. which should be destroyed, not competition when I'm trying to be better than you are. You are trying to be better than I am, and that makes both of us better, and the society is better off. No, I want to kill you, I want to destroy you, I want to put you in the prison, I want to uninstall everything. What you are doing? The same. Therefore, we both go down, then society is worse off. So, in this kind of situation, when we want to establish multi-party system, it's not number of parties which make our society multi-party based or the freedom based. It's the content. And we do not have enough time for that because the current government here and in Georgia needs to solve this problem, that problem, that problem, and there's no time for these democratic games, so-called games. Because, yeah, we need to do this job faster than we have time. And this is a huge threat for the constitutional system because for constitution has different nature, like a tree which we planted. If these concepts are not going through the minds of the citizens, if this constitution, the text of the constitution is not equally respected text as the Bible is for the believers, then what's the meaning of the constitution? It's just the subject of scientific research, and then it's another text. Therefore, we need to somehow find the right balance between the future, the past, and the present, and to try to move forward. But if the constitutional concepts are too much disconnected from the reality, of course we will get twice as bad results because those concepts are losing the trust from the people, and the constitution becomes less important document for us. Well, to address these issues completely, probably we need several hours. We do not have time, and even in this case, we need to be faster than the thing requires. Therefore, I need to finish my intervention here, and I'll be glad to hear comments or questions. Thank you.